Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Replay Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. In the last one we continued through both the split pathways, and now we're in the 6th stage, the upper pathway, with Sypha. Now it's in this stage we can actually start taking advantage of something. I think you can actually find the item in the next room, if not when you're in this room as Sypha. But you might remember the third sub-weapon she has that's exclusive, the little ice thing that I've only used like once if even. It's here you can take advantage of its other special effect. As I mentioned before, the main way it works is that it sends 6 things in an arc above you that can freeze enemies, and that can even, like, one-shot... no. It freezes enemies, then you can attack them to kill them instantly, even if they have more HP than 1, or if they're blood skeletons, which gets revived. However, the thing is about that ice ability, it can also freeze water. And that doesn't sound too big, but in some areas that can actually save you, because almost every piece of water in this game that you can actually, like, walk in has a current, meaning you can ignore it for a few seconds. And in this case in particular, it'll also prevent the mermen from spawning it, meaning you can also just walk on top and avoid a lot of enemies. It doesn't stay frozen for long, probably 3 seconds, if even, but it's still pretty useful if you have enough hearts for it. And that's what it looks like. Yeah, that wasn't even 3 seconds. I wish they actually did more with this, honestly, like an ability to maybe climb up a waterfall. That could have been cool. But, I understand the limitation. I think there's only 2, maybe 3 stages you can do that with in the game. But, at least they thought of it. It's also around now that you really start to notice one of Sypha's more minor issues, and that is especially apparent with Axe Knights. Say I was up close doing what I was just doing there to kill them. If you don't let them... If, say it's a case like the Axe Knights and you're up close attacking them, and they try to throw their axe, you can stun lock them before they attack. However, their axe will still spawn eventually, meaning you want either to just keep a slight distance between you and them so you can destroy their axe when it actually spawns, or you're likely going to get hit. Thankfully, Sypha's main attack can destroy most projectiles. I say most because there are some that are just plain indestructible, honestly. Like in this song, though, nice and jammy. Like that, that's what I meant. I had no way to dodge that axe, even though he probably shouldn't have gotten a chance to throw it at all. You know, one thing that I'm really glad that Castlevania 4 did right, though, looking at this game in particular, is that they made the environments more varied. Not to say this game doesn't have varied environments. The backgrounds are all varied, as are some of the settings. But once especially you get towards, like, castle areas like this, the actual level graphics, like the blocks we're standing on, really tend to blend together. Something that I'm really glad Castlevania 4, Bloodlines, especially Rondo of Blood, fixed. I get it, NES platformer, it's not going to have the best, like, storage for, like, tile sets and that. If at all, really. But still, after 3 games, you'd think they'd come up with something better than just the block look, you know? You're gonna want the electric orbs for the boss of this stage, if I recall, so make sure to keep those with you. It's also really good for getting rid of the mermen. Now, one thing I'm surprised Castlevania 3 doesn't have that was in Castlevania 1 is that in Castlevania 1, if you walked on certain areas or jumped in certain areas, similarly to Ghosts and Goblins for that matter, you can make point items appear, but that's not in this, probably because this wasn't an arcade game at any point. All the way, boss of this stage is the Hydra, I guess, if not water serpents. As you can see, they die really quickly with the blue orbs of doom. What they do is that they'll go in between any of those 4 little positions in between the platforms, and they'll shoot a small spurt of fire towards you. It's not very threatening at all, honestly. At least if you have range like with Grant or Sypha. If you're playing, like, just Trevor, you might have some issues. And now it's time for us to head into the other Stage 7, which I believe is, well, first off, it's, I think, both the longest and my least favorite level in the game. Down over in the Alucard pathway. Now, this is a bit of an interesting stage in that this is a Stage 7 that can be reached through 2 methods. Either by going through the catacombs area we went through last part where we fought the Frankenstein's monster with Alucard, or through the area where you fight the Bone Dragon King. Which, you know, varied pathways, I like that. I mean, this is around the point where they start to converge. In fact, there's 2 Stage 7s, but there's only 1 Stage 8. So by the end of this video, we're finally going to be using just Sypha. But this is my least favorite stage in the game, because first off, there's a lot of waiting in it. As you saw, that acid can melt certain blocks, and in certain platforming sections, you're just going to need to wait for your opportunity to move to be there. And otherwise, it's just not very interesting. There's a lot of instant death opportunities. Knockback can be your worst enemy here. It's not as bad with Grant if you run him, because you can skip a lot of these earlier sections at least. But there's one particular section later on that's just the absolute worst. I hate this stage. This stage alone is why I honestly changed my play style not long after the original Let's Play. Because I just cannot stand this stage. This is the longest stage in the game. I think we're here until about the 12-13 minute mark, so yeah, let that speak for its length. Thankfully, I can say that due to the rooms where there's stuff like that, where the blocks are starting to melt and such, there isn't much in the way of danger here. Sorry about that. At least in terms of enemy variety. Most of the danger here is environmental. Like here, we have these blocks falling from the ceiling, which is foreshadowing to something we'll be seeing in a few moments. But thankfully, as Alucard, you can skip minor sections like that just by flying up. You may have been able to do that in the other ones, but I wanted to conserve my hearts for some later sections. By the way, I should mention there is wall meat in this specific room on the bottom left. Do I actually show it off? No, I do not. It's there. I got it after I died in a part coming up. So, yeah. That would have really sucked, because I probably could have used those 3 health points, too. I think Castlevania 3 is also the Castlevania game where you can get the most hearts easily, at least prior to Rondo. Because it's back in Castlevania 1, and it's kind of rare that I get over, like, 20 hearts. I do that pretty frequently here in 3. Mind you, Castlevania 2, you technically can get the most out of the NES trilogy because you use them as currency, but yeah, you get what I mean. Either way, boss of this stage is the Vampire Bat once again, weirdly enough. Well, it's actually more of a mid-boss, I guess, but yeah, nothing has really changed. Cross Boomerang is still the best way to go about it with this fight because you can just massacre at least 2 or 3 bats at a time with it. But nothing's really changed. Except for the range. I feel like they can actually home in on you a bit more easily here, which, not too good for your chances of survivability, but yeah, that's cool. Axe is also really good for the Vampire Bat because you can just hit it from a farther range and higher. But we're not done with the stage yet. Welcome to the worst platforming section in the game. What we have here is about 2.5 minutes of just these blocks falling down. I'm showing off the first pattern a bit, which I believe is middle left, middle right, far right. No, far left to far right, and then it repeats that for a while until it switches later on. And you just need to stay on this middle stack until it reaches the top. You can get actually stuck in this section if you're not being careful, so I just recommend staying here and jumping left to right like I am right now. We're speeding this up because it took too long, though. Speed up theme for this is the Rondo of Blood rendition of Bloody Tears from Castlevania 2. I absolutely love the song. Then again, Castlevania music, once it not good. This can take a while. I think it's around now the second pattern starts where it just kind of goes down the line in a bit of a fashion from right to left. You can basically just jump from the middle left to the far right and you're fine for the entire pattern though. And now we're finally back to normal speed. That section gave me hell as a kid. It still does to this day a little bit, honestly. And while I think I've learned about more about it since my original LP of this game back in the day, oh man. It is easier with Grant, but at the same time, you can potentially get overly cocky and get yourself stuck as Grant's in there. So, be careful. Also, coming up, I think, is one of the very few one-ups in the game that's actually hidden in a stage. Just jump down to that lower platform and destroy the wall. I can't think of another one-up in the game that's like this. There probably is, and I just don't know where it is because I don't go search for secrets in this game too often, but it's there. Mind you, thinking about it, the next very hard boss probably isn't until stage 9, or was it stage 8? I think it was stage 9. And that's not going to give you too much trouble if you do what I do with it. Actually, no, wait, no, let me remedy that. Stage 8 is where the next really hard boss is. Never mind. And that's the next stage. Well, the next stage in order. We're going to the other stage 7 next. Either way, if you can't tell, this room's kind of dangerous. Look at all the instant death all around me. Spikes above me, spiked platforms, those platforms that switch polarity when you jump on them, and Medusa has to cause knockback so you can jump on them. Ah, that's safe. Oh, God, thank God for invincibility frames. Also, thank God this game doesn't do the Mega Man 1, Sonic 1 thing where if you have invincibility frames and you land on spikes, you're not dead. I like Mega Man 1. That always pissed me off. At least Sonic 1 it actually had as a glitch. I think in Mega Man 1 it was intentional. I know Mighty Number 9 does the same thing, and while I find that game just to be average, that pissed me off when I saw that that was part of a gameplay element. Either way, another vertical scrolling section. I actually think out of the original trilogy that Castlevania 3 has the most scrolling sequences, which don't have much reason to exist. And if you can't tell, by the way, especially in cases like this, it does have Contra Syndrome, where if you're on, where everything that leaves the screen, even if it's been an inch below you, is counted as bottomless pit. It is very interesting, though. Okay, that was knockback. It is very weird to think about some stuff like this, though, because I know for a fact, in some cases like this, the American version added enemies to make screens more annoying. Not too many times, but there's one in particular I'm thinking of later on that just pissed me off last time. Also, there's 2 staircases here. It doesn't matter which one you go up in the long run. I want to go up the left, though, because there's a wall meet up here on the very top right block here. That's nice. Also, graphical detail I should probably go over that I actually like about Castlevania 3 that they brought back from 1. Trevor is a lot brighter than Simon was in 2. Because that's one of my major issues about Castlevania 2, is that graphically it's all pretty dull. Especially Simon. He's so dark it just blends in. Alright, boss for this stage, though, the actual boss fight, is similar to the double boss fight we fought as Sypha, I think it was the last part. And now we have to fight 3 bosses in a row, starting off with 2 mummies. Then it's going to be another Cyclops. Thankfully, the 3rd enemy is actually something new. I know for a fact that 3rd enemy had a sprite change from Japan to America, even though I think this specific ROM uses the American sprite. I kind of like that Castlevania 3 does this kind of boss rush idea only a couple times. But at the same time, I don't like boss rushes in games that aren't Mega Man more often than not. Like Devil May Cry, oh man, some of the boss rushes in that just annoyed the hell out of me, especially in 3. Mind you, 3, as mechanically fantastic as it is, really did not need to be that hard. Oh, hey, an extra life. Cool. Either way, the 3rd boss fight that's gonna happen is... It looks like just a generic demon. I guess it could be supposed to be Satan. I don't know. I suppose it could be a gargoyle now that I'm looking at it. Either way, this guy isn't too bad. He's huge. He likes to jump all over the place. His only real attack, though, is that fire, which is fairly predictable and easy to dodge. Usually he only fires 2 up and 2 down, or 2 down, rather. Not too bad. But as for how his sprite was changed, in the American version, which I think this sprite that's the sprite this game is using right now, his sprite was changed so that the colors were darker. Not just in a particular way, but to actually give him more detail. Like the kind of, for any of you who have seen the Hellboy animated movies, similar to that kind of very bright red with very dark black. Dark black, that's redundant, Kyle, but you know what I mean. Heavy shadows. And with that, now we're entering stage 7 with Sypha, the other one. And this is the stage 7 I prefer to go to, mostly because it's the only one you can encounter on Sypha's path, but it's just much more fun in my eyes. Why? Platforming's more fun, and there's just more to do in it. Plus, there's none of that bullshit waiting like in the previous stage. I'm fine with waiting if it's a game that has me do it a lot, but if it's out of nowhere like that platforming sequence was in the last stage, I don't like it. Consistency is a thing that I think is very important in video games. It does have these blue platforms that are constantly lowering, though, and you need to make sure you can time your jumps properly, otherwise you might die. I have fallen there more times than I'd like to admit. As with most of the Sypha stages, though, make sure you keep your red orbs around, because they're pretty useful. Honestly, that kind of saddens me, though, whenever I find one of those little hidden things and it's just a heart. Because, as you can see, hearts are very plentiful in this game, especially if you are very good at keeping yourself alive. If you die and you're reset to 5, that sucks, but if you're just going through the game normally with dying very little, you can stock up a lot of hearts. Also, this totally doesn't look annoying. It's like that one stage in Castlevania 1 with the... I think that was the one that had the mummy as the boss fight. Flea men and their birds. Though in this game's case, they actually look like fleas more than flea men. I suppose there could be gremlins. Eh. Honestly, most of what I've said at this point can apply to any of the stages because by this point, we are not going to be seeing anything new until I think next stage. Which, yeah, disappointing, but eh. Castlevania 3 is a great game, and it's a very good platformer. But I think it could have done with a few more interesting gimmick ideas, you know, at least in terms of stage platforming. But mind you, nothing's wrong with playing it safe unless you do it over and over and over and over and over again, in which case things are going to get kind of stale after a while, but still, sometimes you wish there could have been a bit more variety. Which is something I think Castlevania 4 onwards did fix. I'm just going to skip that because I like my blue orbs of doom. It is kind of annoying when the blue orbs don't home completely properly, though. Because I could have killed that guy before he had a chance to really show up, but nah. I also think the blue orbs can home onto breakable blocks, though, so be careful. Either way, now we got more fulcrum platforms. This one actually has a pretty deceiving thing, though. Those pillars in the background, they are not solid objects. They are just background. It has to have the green on it for you to stand on them. Do not try to jump on these other ones. You will fall and die. Oh, so that's a very tight jump. That is also a thing that I think... Castlevania 3 doesn't do it too much. I think Castlevania 1 may have done it a bit more off the top of my head, at least. I know Rondo of Blood did it as well. Where there are jumps that look very unmakeable, but you can just barely make it. And in Rondo of Blood's case, I accept that a bit more because that game actually has, like, hidden secrets for you to find, but eh. Oh boy, vertically scrolling section going down. Ooh. This is actually kind of a tricky section, though, because you want to make sure that if you're going to be on a breakable block, you want to make it fall at the proper time, otherwise you will die. Thankfully, I had the level design in this game. Not memorized, but pretty good to my heart. Also, thankfully, it's a pretty short section. Also, I like the idea that they have their blood skeletons that actually have a form of attack. And the boss of this stage is, familiar. It's the exact same Evil Flame fight we fought, not even 6 minutes ago at this point. Again, I understand why they made some bosses repeat on pads, because you might not fight the boss depending on how you go about it, but it's still kind of annoying when you're doing the game like I am. Though I should mention, in terms of my recordings for the stages, because I've recorded each stage as its own session, the way I numbered them is actually detrimental to me now, because, like, let's look at the file names. This right here is RECAS3 4P3. 4P2 was not the previous stage that we played. It was like the previous Sypha stage. I should have numbered these better, like Sypha stage 6 or something. That would have been a lot easier for management in terms of files. But that's just me being kind of stupid with the way I usually name my parts, at least in terms of recording data. I will say, though, this little boss rush thing is much easier with Sypha because her special weapons just do so much more damage. The gargoyle in particular, if you have the blue orbs, can just get completely screwed up. I think Sypha's also a bit safer in this rendition of the fight because you can actually stand on the bottom left and not get hurt by him, I believe. At least if you're in that little inlet I created by destroying a block. But when in doubt, whack things with your stick. It'll murder them eventually. Ow, that was a lot of health. It's around now also, I believe, if you're playing the American version, that the damage that enemies start doing is buffed up from, like, in a Medusa head case, maybe 3 to, like, 5 or 6. So, be careful. I don't like that design choice. I know I mentioned it before, but games like that in Ninja Gaiden 3 just really piss me off. Also, I always think that death animation can kill you, but it can't hurt you at all. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, we'll be, if not finishing the game, getting pretty dang close, and from now on, I should mention, the paths are united. We're going to be continuing on with the Sypha team from here on out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys then.